All right, next up, Colin, let's go to your favorite quarterback in the NFC, Caleb Williams. Had his best game as a pro.
Getting better every game.
20 for 29 for 304 yards and 2 tutties.
Excuse me, say that again. What was that?
20 of 29 for 304.
What is the guy?
It was against the Panthers, just for the record.
Whatever. Huh.
So the number 1 overall pick says the Bears have to keep improving.
Just building the confidence and trust between each other, and trust in this offense between everybody, offensive line, running backs, protection. We need to keep building, keep going. Obviously, great win, but definitely not settled on this.
Here's the best part. So they go to London this weekend to face the Jags.
Well, that game's in London.
Yeah, so we just saw one coach lose in London and get fired. I don't want to say the loser here gets canned, but Peterson, obviously, we know, has really struggled with Jacksonville. Eberflus, I guess they've won a few games, so he's probably safe.
By the way, Caleb Williams, when the season ended, spent some time, I'm told, over in Europe. Familiar territory.
Oh, come on.
The favorite and familiar territory. I like Chicago as one of my favorite bets this weekend.
Really? I'm going to have to...
Jacksonville played with their food and almost lost that game.
Here they're showing me it's -2. I don't see it on the screen, but Bears by 2, you like... Huh?
It's one of my favorite bets of the weekend.
Who's the best quarterback in that game?
Caleb Williams.
Unequivocally, huh? Trevor Lawrence just had the best game of his career against the Colts.
If you could take one to run your franchise tomorrow, what would you do? Ooh. Caleb, by the way, is basically cheap for 4 years, and you have to consider that. There's no, and by the way, Trevor Lawrence is expensive and has been beat up.
Well, I need to talk to Trevor Lawrence. By the way, we didn't get to it yesterday because there was so much happening. But Trevor Lawrence got in a little altercation with Gabe Davis. So Trevor Lawrence finally showing some fire on the sideline as the team was reeling there. Gabe Davis had a bad turnover. But if I see more out of Lawrence, I think I could still take him over Caleb. I mean, we like Caleb. But
I'm not saying I don't like Trevor Lawrence. I think Caleb is a spectacular talent who for 4 years is inexpensive, and I got no injury history. Yeah, you got to consider that. They can't just be, I like the way he throws a ball. What are you doing to my salary cap? Are you available on Sunday? I'll take Caleb.
My final story.
All right. That's an interesting thing. I wasn't even really thinking about Caleb Williams going up against Jacksonville Jaguars, who obviously, Trevor Lawrence was drafted, at this point years ago. But he was billed as the generational talent, right? As a generational talent, and also had, I think Caleb had more hype at the end of the day than Trevor, but it was a foregone conclusion that Trevor was going to be the number 1 pick before, like years before, and it was a similar thing obviously with Caleb as well. But it feels though that the hype at the end of the day was more for Caleb, but they were both billed as generational, and Trevor has obviously not lived up to that quite yet, whether it ever comes or not. And people are quick to say, see, Caleb Williams is not that either. Like, a lot of fans take issue when people say that Caleb Williams is a generational talent as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see them go head to head and how that can go. That really, to me, now adds more interest to this game. Because before I'm like, oh, the Jaguars, who are they? The Bears should win this game. But I don't know. Maybe the Jags are going to right the ship. Who knows? And it's in London, which means it's going to be, super early in the morning. I'm going to watch it half asleep. But now that we kind of have this narrative, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I like this now. It makes it a juicier game. But the other thing, though, is, right, the question that they pose, who would you take, Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence? And the answer, from my viewpoint, is 100% undeniably Caleb Williams. More because, and I don't even want to get into the whole, well, he's cheaper right now, because that's not fair. I'm looking at both these quarterbacks, if they're both the exact same cost of something. Because obviously you're the cheaper quarterback, even if they're both equal, or even if one quarterback's slightly better, the cheaper quarterback is going to be the better move. So that's almost like, I think that's almost like cheating the question, quite frankly. What would be better? Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback and having to pay him $65 million a year, or getting Dak Prescott 100% free on a rookie deal, right? Like, that's an interesting question. But with Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence, if they're putting them side to side 100%, obviously it's harder because Caleb has only played for so much, and Trevor obviously has a much longer resume, but also on like a kind of a bizarre, poorly run team, Jaguars, weird rookie year, just injury history now and all of that type of stuff. But fundamentally, it feels to me that Caleb Williams cares more. Caleb Williams is dedicated. He truly, to his core, wants to be the best quarterback of all time, right? That's what Caleb Williams, that's what his goal is. His goal is to not just win. His goal is to not just have a great career. His goal and his objective is to be the best quarterback of all time. Caleb Williams truly believes that he can be the GOAT, and that is what he is trying to do. That is what he is trying to become. Just like LeBron James, when he entered the league, his goal was not to just have a great career. His goal was, I want to be better than Michael Jordan. I want to be the GOAT. And that motivation and that energy and that dedication goes an incredibly long way. I've heard that Trevor Lawrence is not so much like that. Apparently, Trevor Lawrence, he likes football, but apparently he doesn't love football, right? He doesn't eat, dream, and sleep about it, right? And so, yeah, just on that alone, whether or not you want to say that Caleb is also just a better football player, I'm like, putting that line in the sand right now, just because it's two completely imperfect situations. I do believe that Caleb is a better football player than Trevor Lawrence, but at the same, and I also think that Caleb Williams can do more than Trevor Lawrence, but I'm picking not only because of that, but just because if I have to rally behind someone, whether I'm a player, whether I'm a coach, whether I'm just a fan, getting behind Caleb Williams feels fundamentally so much easier and feels so much more impressive than Trevor Lawrence, right? If I lose with Caleb Williams as my quarterback, again, as a fan, as a player, as a coach, I at least feel that we gave it our all. I feel like my quarterback gave it our all, and I feel like my quarterback really cares about that loss. It weighs heavy on him. It's going to haunt him. Whereas Trevor, it's kind of like, I don't get that sense, and so I won't feel good about it. I'll feel like, well, do you even care? Or are you even thinking about this? Does this matter? What are you doing in the offseason to get better to make sure that this never happens again? Right? Like what are you doing? And it's like, it just feels more disconnected. And again, maybe it's because he plays for Jacksonville. Who really knows? But I just don't get that at all from Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams is still maturing and growing, obviously, as not only as an NFL athlete and quarterback, but also as just a person and a human being as a whole. So I think the growth for Caleb can only just keep going higher and higher and higher. Whereas Trevor Lawrence, I'm sure he still has plenty of room to grow as well, but it just feels like there's a lot less, quite frankly. Because say what you will about Doug Peterson, I'm not saying that he's this great coach, but he's good enough to continue the process of having having Trevor Lawrence continue to grow, right? Again, he might not maximize the growth like an Andy Reid or a Shanahan or McVay, but he's not a disaster coach where you're only going to regress now or you're not going to be able to grow at all. Doug Peterson is clearly competent enough to have continued growth. And so the fact that that's what we're seeing out of Trevor, of the product that we have right now in front of us, is more concerning than anything. Whereas I feel like Caleb Williams is already showing his resilience, his ability to overcome, which to me has been quite impressive. And just the fact that he's been resilient enough to overcome a less than ideal start, quite frankly, and having the media and fans and everyone kind of pile on him, just the fact that he was able to overcome that so early on in his career should not be understated either. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? One, who do you got, Bears or Jaguars in this game? And two, who do you want as your quarterback, Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.